So in this video I want to show you the new MailStore Cloud admin interface. So having pointed your browser to the URL above, you can log in with the default admin account and password that you've been assigned. This will take you to the main dashboard in MailStore Cloud, where you can see any important messages. So here you can see that it's warning me that I've reached my licensed user count, which is correct. And if we look at the bottom here, I can see I'm using 5 users out of 5 allocated. I've currently synchronized 9 separate groups. I have 5 archive mailboxes out of the 25 that I have available. I'm running 2 jobs in the background. I can see that I've had 5 separate errors in the last 24 hours that may need looking at, and at the moment my storage is very small, so I've not quite reached 1 GB, but I've got 50 GB available. On the left hand side, if we work down from the top, one of the first things to set up is the directory services. This is what controls the domains, the users and groups within the system. You can add them manually, but most situations you'd want to synchronize those with a directory services provider. So for example, with a 365 directory synchronization with Enter ID, you can set up the settings here using the correct settings to actually synchronize users and groups into the system. You can even test the connection here as well, which is very useful. That will then run on a scheduled task. So once you've created it, you schedule the task and give it a time to run once, or you can repeatedly run that on a regular interval, for example on an hourly basis. That will then synchronize the users here and set of groups. So these are clearly synchronized users because it's listed here, but we could add manual users as well if we wanted to. The default admin is at the top there. Under the groups, these are groups within my Enter ID that want to be synchronized. Whether you use these groups within MailStore is your choice. That just makes it easier to manage things like the different roles for different users. So for example here I have a group that I've created for MailStore Cloud group, I've called it, and it has multiple members that I can manually add different members to if they exist, and I can choose the role for those members. So the default role that you need is reader access. That's not on by default, so you need to make sure that you go and add that role, and that's what gives users the ability to read things within their own archive. But you may want to give different groups of users access to be administrators of the system, which we're using at the moment with the admin account, but any account can be given that same access, or you may want them to be able to see the audit logs or compliance tasks like deleting or exporting data. So once your users and groups have been added, you'll also see your own domains that are synchronized here. We're only really interested in the domain that for the actual email accounts, but if you've got any other domains in the platform, they will show up here and can be used. So it does support multiple domains in that way. But once your users are set up, the next sort of thing to look at is the ability to archive email. MailStore Cloud primarily works through a journaling system. So you set up a journaling endpoint here. You run through the wizard to create a journaling endpoint, which is a unique email address for this instance that you can set up in your email server, whether that's Exchange Online within 365 or a local Exchange server, or even a third-party mail platform. That's the address you journal to. Any email arriving to that address is then automatically sorted based on the email addresses, the recipient or the sender, to then go into the relevant archive user's mailbox. So archive mailboxes belong to users but can also be used for other tasks. So you can create things for shared folders, or for, in this case, you need one for the actual journaling mail to exist in, but the messages effectively get journaled and then sorted into the relevant address for each of these users. And these archive mailboxes can have multiple email addresses. You can simply just add additional addresses if you need them, and that's what sorts them into the relevant location. For any historic email, you can create archive profiles. So for example, a typical task is to archive existing 365 email. This sort of job here would be set up to run once to go and pull in all of the mailboxes for all the users, but equally you can work on a single mailbox one at a time. You can test that connection as well. So that would then run effectively on a scheduled task. So you click on this button to generate a task when to run that, and the once is the default. Typically it runs 2 minutes in the future, so you can run it as quick as possible, but you can schedule that to run at a specific time to pull in that existing old email. You typically would run that profile once to pull in the old email. The archiving profile in MailStore Cloud will just bring everything into a user's archive. It doesn't have any concept of the folder structure. That's a separate job here, the folder synchronization profile. And that job, in a similar way, will go, in this case, is going to all of the 365 user mailboxes, going through them and looking for the folder structure, mirroring that folder structure in the MailStore archive, and moving messages accordingly that it finds in new locations. So in effect, it's this job that then you would schedule to run more regularly, daily potentially, or maybe sort of in intervals of maybe on an hourly basis. So it's resynchronizing the mail, but it's not actually archiving anything new from the mailboxes. It's just synchronizing and sorting. It's relying on the journaled copy of the email to actually bring new email into the platform. As you can already see, that we know we're creating scheduled events, so those are stored under here under schedules, so you can go and edit them if you need to, or delete them if you no longer need them. Some other key features here under compliance, you've got retention policies. The default retention policy is to delete any emails older than 10 years. We can sort of see the options there. It's very straightforward, and it's whether it's enabled. You can enable that, or by default it doesn't delete anything. You can create more specific retention policies. You can give them names. You have the sort of period of time to apply to. So maybe you want to be more specific about certain emails and say delete them if they're older than a year. So 360 days. And then down here you can choose different criteria for matching on those messages. And there's also a legal hold feature to allow you to temporarily lock all ability to change any data within the archive if you're under a legal hold situation.